The ocean is filled with mysteries and deadly sea creatures that keep most people awake at night. But for some, the water is their source of nightmare. The sea is known to form gigantic monster waves that make the best sailors question their life decisions and start contemplating death. These waves can easily dwarf buildings of several stories, making them the deadliest part of the ocean. From rogue tsunamis to exploding waves shooting up the sky, here are 10 monster waves that would make you want to be far away from the ocean. Number 10. The Mavericks Wave Crash. In February of 2010, the biggest surf competition was taking place at the Mavericks Beach in California. A lot of people attended with the growing popularity of the competition, but the crowd was in for a big surprise. As the day went on, the tides grew large and reached a staggering height of 50 feet, enough to dwarf a 5-story building. With waves that size, there was nothing the spectators could do to avoid what was to come. The waves crashed into every spectator, even the ones who thought they stood in a safe area. The waves would then proceed to wipe out the entire stage and every sound equipment on the beach. While most of the spectators did manage to reach a safe location, around 13 people were severely injured with broken limbs, with some being transported to the hospital. Thankfully, the people who survived this incident got lucky, unlike some of the other incidents on this list. Before we move on to the next wave, like this video and hit the notification bell right now so you never miss a video. Number 9. The Oil Rig. The North Sea is known to produce harsh weather conditions. Here, the warm water from the Gulf Stream collides with the cold Arctic water and produces some of the most fierce weather conditions on the planet. The North Sea area is also rich with oil and other natural resources waiting to be extracted. There are many oil rigs scattered throughout the sea because of this, constantly drilling and braving in extreme weather conditions. People tend to forget these oil rigs, which are larger than ships, actually float, which brings them to the mercy of pounding waves. On January 10, 2015, the oil rig Borgholm Dolphin found itself in the middle of a huge storm. Footage shows the large rig being tossed side to side as the ocean rises and falls. Despite being 60 feet above water, the waves still overwhelm the oil rig, and the pounding waves engulf the deck. The oil rig has a few turbines concealed beneath the water to prevent the wind and tides from moving it out of place. Large tanks help store or remove water to keep it balanced, but as you can see, they can only do so much when faced with massive waves. Number 8. Surfing a monster wave. In 2014, Brazilian surfer Rodrigo Coxa had a near-fatal wipeout after encountering a giant wave in Nazaré. This near-death experience shut him down and kept him away from surfing monster waves for months. He suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder and lost his sponsor. After a lot of mental work to rebuild his confidence, Coxa was ready to ride the waves again. A wall of water that rose over 80 feet appeared at the iconic coast of Nazaré 3 years after his near-death experience in November of 2017. As soon as Coxa saw the wave, he knew this was going to be the biggest wave of his life. He didn't hesitate to take the challenge, and several videos and pictures of Coxa dominating the mountainous wave that dwarfed a red tower on shore appeared on the internet. He described the wave as being super-powered and being extremely fast. In the footage, Coxa can be seen in the center of the towering wave looking like an ant. If it weren't for the white streak made by his board, it would be impossible to see him. He broke the Guinness World Record for the largest waves surfed. If you look carefully in the video, it seems like the crashing waves might knock him down, but he comes out of the cloud and successfully conquers the wave. Number 7. The Cargo Ship. Ship captains are accustomed to the harsh sea conditions and know how to properly deal and sail through the massive waves. Things are a lot easier for them when they have a big ship to cross the ocean. The largest ships sailing the world's oceans today are cargo ships, but even they are vulnerable to problems caused by rough waters and large waves. If the ship finds itself in the wrong position, large waves can easily damage the cargo and even pose a risk to the ship itself. Off the coast of Spain and France lies the Bay of Biscay, notorious for its massive waves. A fully loaded cargo ship was on voyage to transport its payload when it came upon some bad weather. Camera footage showed the ship being thrown around by the waves and being in a pretty bad state. The main source of danger wasn't the rough conditions the ship was in, it was how the ship was loaded. When it comes to ship safety, weight distribution is very important since it can help protect a ship from listing or rocking during bad weather. However, it can also pose a real threat to the ship when done improperly, even to the point of sinking. Number 6. Waves with explosives. After the Second World War, the United States continued to test nuclear weapons at sea in a series of experiments called Operation Crossroad. They conducted their experiments on the remote Bikini Atoll in the Marshall Islands between 1946 and 1958. Nuclear testing at Bikini Atoll consisted of the detonation of 23 nuclear weapons to see if the naval ships they had created could withstand the force of a nuclear blast. Operation Crossroad consisted of 2 tests. The bomb of the first test was called Gilda and was dropped from an aircraft. However, it sank only 5 of the naval ships in the lagoon because it missed its aim point, so a second test was conducted. But this time the Navy had different plans. They created a bomb called Helen of Bikini, and instead of dropping it from an aircraft, they detonated it 90 feet underwater. The second underwater blast sank 8 of the naval ships in the lagoon and created massive waves in the process. These explosions displaced 2 million tons of water that shot up about 5,000 feet in the air and created blast waves that had a velocity of about 26 feet per second. The surface waves created reached about 100 feet and easily flooded the island where the cameramen stood. They were forced to climb up trees to avoid getting wiped out. Number 5. North Sea rogue waves. We are going back to the North Sea, and it's no coincidence, given that it's infamous for its extreme weather and giant waves. Traveling the sea brings many concerns, and encountering a rogue wave is one of the worst things that can happen. Rogue waves are extreme waves whipped out by high winds. These giant walls of water can sometimes be twice the height of surrounding waves. No matter how good your boat is, one rogue wave can easily wipe it out. And as the name suggests, these waves are completely unpredictable. In this 23 million view YouTube video, we get to witness the horror of encountering such a monster wave at sea. The video starts right as the water wells up and towers over a ship moving forward. Luckily, the ship climbs the waves safely, but the waves aren't done yet. The ship endures a few more giant hits and barely makes it. While all of this is happening, you can just hear the crew laughing and saying how awesome it is.
Shit, fuck up. That's awesome. Just got it.
Seems like they're just coping with the possibility of their life being at risk, as these waves could end everything in a split second. Number 4. Aircraft carrier versus Typhoon. Seeing ships and surfers getting beaten up by waves is one thing, but watching an aircraft carrier battling against the giant waves of a typhoon is something else. Ever since the aircraft carrier replaced the battleship, it has redefined what modern sea power is about. However, every now and then, we are reminded by Mother Nature, who's truly the one in charge here. In 2008, the USS Kitty Hawk was going through the North Pacific Ocean. Considering its massive size and weighing over 97,000 tons, this massive aircraft carrier was sailing smoothly towards its destination until it encountered Typhoon Fangxing. These waves didn't pose a threat of sinking the aircraft carrier, but had this been any other normal ship, they most likely would have ended up at the bottom of the ocean. This event is a striking reminder that even the largest, most impressive ships aren't safe from the dangers of the ocean. Number 3. Jaws strikes. Hawaii's Jaws Beach is infamous for its gigantic waves. Many surfing events are held here, where surfers dream of conquering the massive waves. A professional surfer and coach called Mike Parsons visited Jaws Beach with a film crew behind him. The camera crew filmed in a helicopter as Parsons towed out into the water to catch the 64-foot wave. Parsons took on the giant wave and gradually became smaller as the wave grew and broke over him. This clip was filmed back in 2003 for the Billabong Odyssey film, which documented big wave surfers as they confront some of the biggest waves surfed in history. Number 2. The tsunami. We're talking about monster waves, so it's time to talk about one of the deadliest tsunamis in recent times. Tsunamis start far out at sea when an underwater earthquake displaces water. This water moves with a very high velocity at sea, and very few people have seen a tsunami before it reaches the coast far out at sea. In March 2011, a sailing Japanese Coast Guard ship noticed the horizon looking slightly off, and he caught it all on camera.
10メーターだね。
The sea has risen quite high in the distance, and if you look closely, it almost appears as if there's a small mountain of water. Upon seeing this, the captain knew he had no other choice but to keep sailing and ride over the waves. A few hours prior, an earthquake with a magnitude of 9.0 was recorded 80 miles east of the city of Sendai. This would ultimately create a tsunami that would take many lives. To the captain, this was just another swell to sail over. To the Japanese mainland, this wave would ultimately cause billions of dollars in damages. After the ship sailed over the wave set its eye on the Japanese coast. With a speed that approached about 500 miles per hour, it generated waves so massive they would cause damage for years to come. Thousands of people fell victim to the tsunami, and nothing could be done to stop it. After the tsunami struck the mainland, the Japanese government released an official count of death, which exceeded 10,000 people. Number 1. Front row to crashing waves. At this point, you probably want to stay far away from waves, but that's not what musician Stephen J. Burke had in mind. A few years back, a video of him boarding the Anthem of the Seas cruise ship that went from New Jersey to Florida was made. The water was extremely terrible that day, with winds up to 120 miles per hour. As made clear by the video, you wouldn't want to be on this cruise ship. The waves constantly crashed into his cabin window on the third deck. Because the ship didn't want to get flipped over like a pancake, it went back to New Jersey. Out of the 1,000 people on board, only 4 received injuries. Large waves at sea are much more of a danger than we typically consider. To see more videos like this one, hit the subscribe button. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.